afternoon and welcome to another edition of Leading Ladies TV, the channel to come to for inspiration. Welcome our guest today, Janie Ashmore. Hi Jani.
Hi.
Thanks so much for being on Leading Ladies TV. I'm really excited to hear your story today. Just for the viewers, Jani is an author, an international speaker and a consultant, and has spent a lot of her working career in leadership, which doesn't come without its challenges. So Jani's going to share some of the steps that she took to become marvellous and well-heeled in the world of leadership. So welcome Jani, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate your kind introduction and words. I actually grew up on a dairy farm in the middle of the U.S. in Colorado. And our family came from fairly meager means. And I was the youngest of the family of 6 and sometimes painfully shy. And I had a brother who really liked to put me down a lot. That challenge as well as I went along. So it's been quite extraordinary for me to have been able to experience what I have in my life, to be able to expand and grow and to surpass the challenges that I started out with. And so I feel really fortunate to have been able to contribute to thousands of people in hundreds of organizations across North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific in speaking about a variety of topics. I have been in business for more decades than I like to admit.
Too, I'm sure.
Yeah, it just keeps growing. But it has allowed me the opportunity to speak with people on leadership, sales, service, empowerment, team building, a variety of topics. However, most recently I have been focused on leadership. And I had the good fortune of collaborating on a couple of books that became Amazon.com bestsellers. I had my own book a little over a year ago that is titled Stop Managing, Start Inspiring, Keys for Leaders to Bring Out the Best in Others. So that's been a great accomplishment for me as well, too.
I love that. So what have you learned about leadership? Well, it's so common. People do try and manage their way through. What is the difference when people are being inspiring?
Yes. Well, in my book, I use the acronym of values to help leaders to become more authentic and also to reveal their humanity. I think those are the two keys. I think leaders have been expected to be like Superman or Superwoman in their jobs. And unfortunately, what that has caused people to do is to be much more difficult to approach. And they're more unapproachable and feeling like that people can't even talk to them at times.
Yeah.
And so I think that by focusing on a balance of how it is that we are as leaders on the business side, so the tasky things that we do, as well as how we are on the human side, how we interact with people is really key for leaders. And so with this acronym of values, I encourage leaders to look at what is their vision of purpose. That's what the V stands for. The A is for aligned actions. The L is for aligned goals. The L is for listing their actions. The U is for moving past their limiting beliefs, so undoing those limiting beliefs. E is for expressing success, and then the S is for strengthening through feedback. So I encourage leaders to model what it is that they're asking their people to do. And by doing that, then it is more, they can uncover that human side more when they make a mistake, to admit that and be more authentic in who they are. It seems like that one of the things that is really key as well too is for leaders in doing that is to model how it is that they've moved through some of the challenging experiences they've had, how they have undone their limiting beliefs as well too. And so one of the other things that's been fortunate for me is I've done some things like walking on fire and jumping out of airplanes, and I hiked the Grand Canyon from rim to rim and achieved a black belt in karate. So I've done things that forced me to move through my own limiting beliefs. So the beliefs that I came up with based on how I was raised, what kind of things I was told as I was being raised, what the culture has told me. For women in general, I mean, I started back in business back when I had in my first job interview someone tell me, we have 5 guys, what do we want you for? So literally. And so it's been interesting as a woman to stay in the game, to stay on the game board and continue to expand and grow. And now being able to contribute to other women and men as well, too, in how it is that they can be more inspiring leaders.
That's amazing. I'm pleased you mentioned Walking on Fire, because the Leading Ladies Company, of which I run, we do Walking on Fire as part of our workshops. It's phenomenal, isn't it?
It is. It's so amazing. I mean, all those things that I've done in that regard have just really cracked my belief system. Because if I could do that when I didn't think it was something my mind or some part of my mind didn't think I could do, then what else could I possibly do in my life that I didn't think? So it's been a really great anchor and metaphor for me in life to continue to do those kinds of things.
Yeah. You really got me curious with this interview, actually. I remember I was a manager, and I started off when in my 20s and managing people, and I had a real period of time, sort of to my late 30s, last week, where I was thinking, if I'd known then what I know now, I would have been a different manager. I would have definitely been more vulnerable and not felt like I had to have everything, clear in my mind and me be in control of everything. What have been some of your, you say you sort of set off on the farm with 6 brothers and sisters and things. How have you made this transition to this success and into leadership? What have you had to push through?
I think that for me, given the things that I told you that I have done in my life, is that one of the main keys has been not letting the fear stop me. My mom was a wonderful model, and both my parents were actually, even though they were farmers in a rural area, they were leaders in our community. And so my dad was a leader of an organization that was called Grange, which was a rural organization where people came together and did community activities and had like beliefs and just organized around each other in that regard. My mom was a 4-H leader, and 4-H was an organization for youths. And it allowed, now unfortunately it was very gender biased, because for the girls they learned how to cook and sew and do home furnishings and garden, and the boys learned how to raise calves and chickens, and they also did some of the gardening things as well too. But she encouraged me to cross over the line there, so I had a calf as well. I didn't just do the cooking and sewing. But my point is, both of my parents being leaders, I think, really made a difference and also encouraged me to incorporate that aspect of modeling leadership in the books that I have there. So I think, in answer to your question, I think that not letting the fear get in the way of what my next goal was. And I remember one of my first presentations in business when I stood up behind a lectern, and my knees were knocking so hard that I was afraid that people could hear them knocking. Oh. I was just petrified, really, really, really scared. I mean, the feeling inside of me was amazing. It's really quite amazing that I got through the talk, and I did get good feedback to it. So sometimes it doesn't come across as bad as it feels like it is inside. I tell people to use the analogy of being like a duck that's swimming across a pond. Yeah. But on the top, they're just gliding across, and underneath, they're paddling like heck. So it doesn't always come across that way. So I think the aspect of just not letting that fear stop me and still going on to the next time and saying to myself, next time I'll be better, rather than saying, I didn't like that, so I'm not going to do it again, is that each time I know that it's going to get better.
Yeah. That's, well, if you stop at that first hurdle, then you're not even going to make it to leadership, are you?
Right. Mm-hmm.
What do you think are the things that are the most important attributes that a leader needs?
Well, the two things that I mentioned before, I think are really critical in this day and age, is that authenticity and revealing their humanity. Because what's happened is there's become such a gap, and maybe there always was, and it just has become more and more apparent now, I think, with what we see in the media as well, too, that people are starting to demand, and I think maybe it's the younger generation that's coming up as well too, that's demanding that authenticity and showing our human side. So I would say those two things are key, because if people are not authentic in their leadership and they're not showing their human side, then people don't trust them and they just don't believe them. And so that's why I think those two are so key right now.
Yeah. How do you help people to do that? And I say this, Jani, I was actually having dinner with a friend recently who isn't great at asking for help or opening up. She puts on a lovely persona of being actually very swan-like, actually. Everything's great. But it isn't always helpful, is it? It's not authentic always to be like that. So how do you encourage it, to people? Because that's really changing people's behaviour, isn't it? If somebody's been, I'm the boss, this is how I do it. How do they transition?
Well, in some of the coaching that I do with people, I find that the questions that we ask as a coach, and also to transfer that and then look at what are the questions that we ask ourselves that can be really valuable in moving us forward. And I also like to hold on to it's kind of like a koan that one of my teachers, Tony Robbins, gave me, is that people do the best they can with the resources they have at any given moment in time. And so even though we may look at someone and feel they should, that should question in there be somewhere or be some way that they're not, that when we allow people to be where they are currently, then it gives space for them to grow and expand. So if I take that and transition it back into being a leader, if a manager of a group of people allows them to be where they are and at the same time can encourage them, that's what's one of the things I think is really key, because as you focus on giving feedback to people, so you know this principle in that if someone just keeps telling that they're not as good as they could be, then they're just making them wrong. So if they can't make them right where they are currently, then there's no space for them to move forward. All they can do is it actually makes them get a little more stuck. And so there's a real key, I think, there in acknowledging where they are and at the same time encouraging them to move forward. But it's done through the questions that as we ask as leaders about, or to an individual, about what it is that they want to do in their life. And what is it they can do? What are the next steps that they can do to move towards whatever that goal or vision is that they have for their life?
Yeah, and just I love that. Recap that again for me. If you can't make them right, you keep them wrong.
Yeah, yes, it does. If you can't, if all as a leader, if all we can say is you need to be or you should be somewhere that you're not, then you're invalidating who they are in this moment.
Yeah.
So it's really critical and important, I believe, to validate who they are and where they are right now, acknowledge that and accept it, and then look at where is it that they want to go. And it's not just necessarily what the leader or the manager thinks where they should go. It's where does that individual want to go.
Yeah.
So it's important.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I love that you said you'd learned from Tony Robbins. Everybody's doing the best they have with the resources they have available. And coincidentally, I've worked with some leaders that are pretty high up in their organisations, and actually, one thing that they talk about the people leading them is their expectations of them. And I have actually had quite a lot of conversations around, they maybe aren't able to do that. We've all got limitations all the way up the ladder. It's sort of seeing them, isn't it?
Yes,
It's a
yeah.
fascinating subject. What else? What else do we need to know about leadership?
Well, actually, one of the things I was going to say, just adding on to what you said, is that that's the area that's kind of tricky, is having the expectation. If we can, as a leader, encourage someone to move forward in the direction that they want to go, rather than having an expectation about how they should be, when we get into expectation, it tends to cross the line into what can sometimes be negative, rather than believing in someone. If you believe that someone can achieve their goal and you can encourage them and support them in that, it's much more likely they're going to make their goal than just having an expectation and going back to that feeling that they're not good enough the way they are right now. So it's a bit of a tricky a line that gets crossed back and forth in that way.
Being an inspirational leader certainly has a big impact on the business, the bottom line and everything. And I guess it's constantly learning for people, isn't it? Even though the leaders have learned the business, actually learning to be inspirational is one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
We'll learn, see if that works, see if that works, see if that works. Excuse me. Are there any other key messages in your book? I'm loving this discussion about leadership.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. Well, one of the other, I have a bonus chapter in the back of my book, actually, that looks at how is it we create an inspiring environment. And so I look at the environment as being two different ways. It can be the environment that we see, so the way things are placed in our office space that we have, for our own office as well as for the office in a company. As I see, yours is a very conscious space that you have in your office, and I appreciate and respect that. And then there's also the environment that we don't actually see, but that we more experience. And an example of that might be if you walk into a room and two people have been arguing, and you may not have heard them, but you walk in and you can just feel it. That's the area where we can't really see it, but it's another part of the environment. And so I talk about the importance of managers and looking at what is the environment that is created based on both of those aspects. It's how people treat each other and how people connect in their team as to that non-physical space as well as the physical space. And with the physical space, people can play with things like feng shui. And there are consultants out there who specifically will consult just on the physical space in someone's office and how things are arranged in the office that can help move the organization forward and what kind of things get in the way.
Yeah. Oh, I'd like somebody to come and feng shui my whole house. I'd love to have it done and see what the difference
I'll tell you, it looks like they already have. But I see.
We can see a small part of it. Yeah, I get a lot of people will walk into my house, and so it feels really lovely.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, if ever my partner and I have had a disagreement, I can feel it in that room for hours afterwards. You almost need to fling the windows open, don't you, and let the fresh air in.
Yes, yeah. That's actually a really good idea. That does help do that. But that's a perfect example of the non-physical environment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jani, I've loved this discussion. It's been quite a different interview for me on Leading Ladies TV. I feel like we've had a good chat, and all that I'm hearing is just that, oh God, yeah, I love being reminded of some of the messages that we all need to keep on hearing as leaders of organisations and leaders of ourselves, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually use that definition on a broader scale when I do my talks on leadership, that a leader is anyone who is willing to step forward and model bringing out the best in others and in themselves. And so it really applies to anyone. So we do have the leader in our own heads as well as when we're leading other people.
And before we kind of wrap up for today, is there, I always like to ask, is there a key message that you'd like anybody listening to take away? Is there a motto that you always have in your mind? What could you share with us?
Actually, two popped into my mind, if that's okay. If I
Yeah,
can do
of
two.
course.
Yeah, one is just not to let the fear stop you from the next step. Whatever the next step is that you have to take, is to do what you need to lessen the fear. Because I don't think it is really about being fearless. I think as long as we're humans, we're going to have fear come up. That's just part of the human experience. But it's to not let the fear stop us. And if we can make the fear less through a lot of different modalities that we can use for that, then we can take that next step and the next step and the next step and be able to reach our goals. And then the other one is a quote by Oliver Wendell Holmes, which is one of my favorites. And it's, "A mind once expanded never returns to its original shape." And so I hope that whoever is listening to the video, their mind has been expanded in some way. And that as we continue in life, that if we seek those experiences that allow our minds to expand, then we're continuing to expand and grow ourselves.
I love that. I'm going to take that one. And I just wanted to add on because the fearless thing, it's really resonating with me just right now. And I have to say, I felt a fear, I guess you'd call it, like every day about for the last 2 weeks. Because I'm on a new journey, I'm trying something new, and you're kind of like, oh God, I'm having to learn every day, and will I get it right? But of course, in a couple of months, I won't remember this, and I'll just know what I already know. So, yeah, it's worth it. But yeah, I just want to reaffirm that even people that are at the top or doing well, they have experienced fear, haven't they?
Yes. Yeah, it's like I said, it's just part of the human experience.
Yeah.
But it's where what are the questions that we're asking in our own head that either moves us forward or keeps us back. You know, if something goes wrong and someone says, "Oh, what else could possibly go wrong?" then the universe will show them what else could go wrong, rather than how can this get even better?
Yeah.
So is then a question that's going to take us leading forward. So, yeah,
Oh.
valuable questions.
Thank you, Jani. Thanks so much. It's been a really interesting discussion. Some real great inspiration in there, and some nuggets to take away that I'm sure will just sort of stick with people and take them on into feeling fearless about being an inspirational leader. So,
Thank you, Amanda. I've really enjoyed sharing this time with you.
Okay, so we'll say goodbye then, and thank you again. Goodbye from Leading Ladies TV. Until next time.
Bye.